Hello again, and welcome to the Master's Voice. I am Celestial, and you are welcome to this channel. To old and new subscribers alike, you are very welcome. There will be no announcements for today. If you want to know where the Master's Voice Prophecy blog is, you can find it at www.the-masters-voice.com. And that's going to be the only thing that I will cover in terms of helping new people to find their feet. I have a very grave prophecy that I got from the Lord this very morning. And when I say this morning, it is already crossed over into the new day. So right now it is September the 9th, 2025. But I'm talking about the experience and the dream that I had and the understanding that the Lord gave of it to me on the morning of September the 8th, which was just yesterday. The dream that I had was so shocking. The dream that I had was so provocative. And speaking from a personal level, the dream that I had was so scary that I really had to hear from the Lord himself. This dream that I have seen, which I know already comes from you, but this thing that you have shown me, Lord, is it really something that's real? Is it really something that's actually going to happen? And the Lord gave me an understanding of it. In this prophecy, we're going to look briefly at some of the amendments of the U.S. Constitution. If you are not a student of how the United States operates, if you don't live in America, you're not an American citizen. There are tons of American citizens who don't even know what the Constitution says. They just know that there's a Constitution. They can stand proudly on it and say, I'm an American. These are our rights. Naturalized citizens, the same. But here on the Master's Voice Prophecy blog, it has been prophesied for a very long time prior to this time that we would come to the day when the U.S. Constitution will be little more than a rag. And I've also shared that the Lord has said to me that I have his permission to speak with a little more candor. And there are a few wild oats out there who clearly don't have access to a dictionary, so they don't know what candor means. Candor simply means that prior to this moment in time, when I, Celestial, bring the Lord's prophecies, you will get nothing but the Lord's prophecies. You will only get what the Lord has said, and as much Bible explanation with Bible verses for you to understand what is happening. In order for you to understand what has been happening to you in 2019, 2022, 2024, and now in 2025, it is necessary for somebody to teach you the Word of God as it applies to the time that you are living in. That means that you can't run with 700 Club understanding of the Word of God. You cannot come into 2025, 2026, 2028 with a Joel Osteen apprehension of the Word of God, nor can you follow the popular black podcasters of the day, because they are not able to tell you what has come before, what is happening now, and how it all ties together in the future. They are not graced and called by God to give you that picture as a prophet sent from God should. So in previous times, you got the message, you got the explanation of the message, you got all the scriptures that pertained to the message. Well, the Lord, knowing the time that we have come to and saying you can speak to them with candor, what you will now notice is I am now freer to tell you certain things, such as if you play around with the only soul that you have, you will lose that soul. If you mistreat the one currency in your life that you have, which is faith, you will simply sit at the gambling table and lose. These things previously, you would have to figure them out from the message. You would have to piece together, this is what she's saying. Because when I'm teaching you the Bible. I'm not teaching you bare knuckle fighting. But now we've come to the place whereby if you forego bare knuckle fighting, then as this prophecy will tell some of us, your life will be taken from you, even if you want to keep it. Even if you're not like so many of the people that I keep seeing in the comments that are saying that they're feeling suicidal. You guys, you need to get a grip on yourself. You who are feeling that way, you need to understand that suicide will put you firmly in the lake of fire. If you are the kind of person who is planning to go to the lake of fire, then might I ask you, what are you doing on a Christian blog? Because Christianity is not about going to the lake of fire. Christianity is not about being judged by Jesus Christ. After you rise from life, you commit suicide. Okay, you end it all because you believe that's what you need to do. And then what? You rise to life in front of Jesus Christ, and then you are put into the second death. There's a second death after the first death. This is not the time to talk about the various struggles. Candor means that I am now free to look you in your eyes and tell you all the various niceties that would have been perhaps sounding like a thought from myself, which I am meticulous in not inserting into these prophecies. You didn't come to hear from Celestial, you came to hear from Jesus Christ. But candor just means give it to them as bluntly as is needed. Because God is of the opinion that if he can save some of you, even if he is in the posture of judgment of the nation of America, after which you will see the judgment starting to roll out to all other nations, America is going to be the locus point. America is going to be the class example. America is going to be step one of what is going to be global and international judgment. You see what happens here. There's going to be maybe a 2-second lag period in which you in your country can get it together. You in your country observing what Yah is going to do in this country. We'll have a 2 to 10 second lag period for all of you to drop on your knees and say, God, please don't do that to us. God, we fully understand that it was you that did that in America. It wasn't anyone else. I still have earthquake prophecies to do, but I'm not able to do those prophecies until I share this dream that I had this morning, especially because it relates to something that also happened in the United States on September the 8th. And so the only, you know what? The title of the message is The Wolves Are Coming. The Wolves Are Coming, September the 8th, 2025. And the only preamble that I will give to this message is to tell you that this is not the kind of channel where I wait for things to come on the news in order to make a prophecy. I don't wait for things to break on the news like a lot of people do that pretend to be prophets in America. They literally watch different news clips, different happenings, and then they gather that up and then they come and say, oh, the Lord told me that this is going to happen. I don't need to do that. Whatever it is that I'm talking about on the Master's Voice, you can go back. I went back and the second video, I just don't have the time to make the clips, but the second video ever made on the Master's Voice channel is called Home Invasions Imminent. And I was so surprised to see myself in that short little 20-minute video. I think it's about 20-something minutes, talking about how I had seen coming in the future of America, these armed men that were going to homes in America and raiding homes in America and using something that I just called a flashy stick. This flash stick. And I said it's a phosphorus stick that when they throw it down, it will go in front of your eyes. And I said it will blind everybody in the house, giving those men time to come in the house because they have night scope goggles so their eyes don't get hurt. And they will be able to come in and do whatever they want to do. And fast forward all those years from 2020, August, when I started, to now, August 2025 just ended. And now it's September 2025. And to see that ICE does employ these flashbangs when they're going to raid homes and things like that. This prophecy is a warning to you if you have melanin in your skin. And the fact that I'm having to sit here to warn melanated peoples, and I'm not speaking to Black Americans who will probably take this to heart and say, but she's always, no, you need to listen. People, you need to understand that you are precious to God, but I'm telling you that you are almost at the edge of Xing yourself out of the Lord's favor. And this thing is so grievous to me. This thing is so grievous to me because you know what? Not everybody wants that outcome for the community. Not everybody wants that outcome of being rejected yet again by the Most High, according to Deuteronomy 28. Not everybody wants to end up again on punishment because of the overwhelming stubbornness, hard-heartedness, and ingrained pride that is in the African American community first and foremost. It is not to say that they have the complete moratorium on pride, that they're the only proud people who are melanated. This is not true. It is just the loudness of it. It is the obnoxiousness of it. I am telling you that we are at a precipice of something that is going to cause so much pain, so much grief. If there's one thing that the 12 tribes of Israel excelled at in the Word of God, it was to master sin. It was to excel in sin until it was intolerable for God. Then he would hand down something that would go to the soul of the people. He would hand down a punishment. He would bring about a captivity. He would bring about a defeat. He would bring about an enslavement that went to the soul of the people. And then they would go to their go-to safe place, which was to start crying out, which was to start talking about, to us and our children belong shame of face. Oh Lord, how long will you overlook? Lord, how long will you avoid? That is what Israel excels in doing. Instead of loving righteousness and staying on the narrow path, they will always, they will always divert off into sin, pride, excess, immorality, and sexual immorality to such a point that the Lord will step away from them. He will take his hand off of them, and then their enemies will come upon them. You're listening to the sound of my voice. You're outside of the United States. You're part of Israel. You're in no danger. You are in absolutely no danger. Nobody's going to hurt you. Nobody's going to do anything to you. Wherever you are outside, you are going to watch and see where this thing called the time of Jacob's trouble, where that loud cry, where that loud wail is going to come from. It is going to come from inside these borders. Whoever is of the designation of the 12 that is inside these borders, because we are still in this land of captivity. Listen to me. Stop doing the things that you are doing. Stop playing around at the edge of the fury that is inside God. The fury inside God is so packed that I'm telling you, as Daniel told King Nebuchadnezzar, King, the way I see this dream of yours, where this massive tree has been cut down, and then the watchers cried out against it. They cut it down. They put a band of iron around it, and then the dew of heaven was wetting it 7 years. King, before I even tell you what the dream means, I'm going to start off by telling you, let this dream be upon your enemies. Don't let this dream be the outcome for you. Don't let this dream be Don't let it fall on you. Let it fall on Pharaoh. Let it fall on Sennacherib. Let it fall on anybody else. But don't let it fall on you, King. Turn your conduct and change your ways. To the Black and the brown communities in this country, basically Latin American, African American, scattered Afro-Caribbean in this country, if you can't hear, you are going to feel. If you cannot hear, if you think that you are too good to listen to me, when God already told you, I think it was last year in 2024, when I was doing the trans series, there was one prophecy that I brought that was concerning the White House, that the White House is going to burn down. God was bringing out an open indictment of the presidents, the sodomy that they commit, the fact that there has been a long lineage of sodomites. It doesn't matter which president you want to pick, okay? In case you can't hear because you think your favorite managed to escape, it is a ritual associated with the presidency. Once they get in there, they all have to do it. None of them ever enter in there with a person who's actually a woman as their so-called companion. It's always men. In that prophecy, the Lord said something distinctive. He said, whether you listen to me or not, I'm the last chance you get. And that's exactly what God was telling me over this past weekend. I didn't make many videos. If you notice, since the California thing, I've been making 2 videos a day, trying to keep up with the Lord. But I decided, you know what? This Labor Day, it's for everybody. This is what candor looks like. Candor is looking you in your face and telling you that I'm not going to experience burnout on your behalf. I did that in 2020. I did that in 2021. I did that in 2022. I had to take a long break after. I did that for many years. And I said that at the beginning of 2025, things were going to be different. I'm having a reset. I'm taking a different approach to anything. No one is going to give me hypertension, high blood pressure, fury, provocation of any sort. I'm not going to be moved out of my peace for a people who seem determined to rush into hell and to fulfill every prophecy of destruction that God has ever pronounced upon them. And so this weekend, not very active. This past weekend, today is now Tuesday, but yesterday was Monday, September the 8th. And the Lord was reminding me at this place where I said I went to have food, and he was telling me, you will see my wonders. You will see my marvels. Another thing that he was telling me at that place is he was telling me, you're all they get. And that's exactly what the Lord said to me on Sunday, September the 7th, when I was in church. He said to me, Celestial, you are all they get. You are the last one. I will not send another one after you. You are their last chance. You're all they get, whether they recognize it or not, whether they accept it or not, whether they believe it or not. You're the last one that I'm sending to warn these people to turn from their multiple infractions. An infraction is a kind of, if you put it in tennis, it's like a kind of technical fault. It's like a technical fault. But you know that if you multiply your technical faults in tennis, you can lose the match. You don't have to make big errors or whatever they call it. You can still lose the match just by having a bunch of technical faults. He was telling me you're all they get. You are all they get. You are their last chance. Whoever listens, that one will save his life. He said, whoever doesn't listen, that one will be destroyed and without remedy. People in this country that know you don't match the majority demographic. You have not heard me speaking like this until the year turned to 2024, because it was in 2024 that the Lord finally set his face to start addressing what true Israel is and what false Israel is. If you don't listen, if you stay out in those streets having parties, if you don't come out of these sororities and fraternities as if somebody told you that when it's time for God to take us into the wilderness to worship him as we did in the Exodus, you think you're going to come and be doing those stupid eagle wing moves in the desert so he can put a lightning bolt into your heart while your mother watches you fall to the sand. Do you think that these temporary confusions, these temporary things that this society, this nation hangs in front of your eyes like Christmas ornaments, decorations, and things like the things you hang over the crib of a baby to keep the baby entertained so you can rush off and make him or her a bottle. You keep these things and you put them into your soul as if these things are the treasure that Jesus Christ died for you to have, instead of taking the words of the Lord and putting it in your heart. I'm telling you flat out before I give you this prophetic word that God is going to let this nation eat so many of you. And I say you out there because I'm not going to put one of my 10 toes wrong. Not a single one am I going to put wrong, because I am going into the full destiny that God has for me. Me and everybody else who is like me and everybody else who believes me, we're going in. When God came and called an entire nation, he could do nothing with those people. People don't know how to read the cycles in the Bible. The first time God let everybody die outside the flood, he looked for people to save, and only Noah brought him pleasure. It says nothing about Noah's wife and Noah's children. They were covered under the fact that Noah found favor with God, and God knew he couldn't put Noah on that boat with just a bunch of animals and kill his whole family. What frame of mind would that man be in? And also, how would the world be remade? God found a man who was untainted in his generations. That means a man with no Nephilim DNA in him. A righteous man, the Bible says, a preacher of righteousness. God extended life to that man and offered to that man. Noah believed God. Noah believed God. Noah was not like the people in California who listen and still think that they have time to move at their own pace. Christians, candor is me telling you something that God was telling me this morning. God told me that a lot of people who will die in California are Christians who actually love and believe him, but thought that his timetable was their timetable. That's what he was telling me. He said a lot of them who die there will be people who absolutely believe the prophecy 100%. But instead of listening to the story that I gave you to tell them of Lot, did you see Lot plan? Did Lot plan? Did Lot come to the community center and say, I'm just trying to sell everything and I'm hoping that by the end of October? Are you insane? Are you on drugs? Are you off your rocker? That you will hear the Lord say evacuate, which means flee instantly. We're just working on a November plan, a December plan. You're unhinged. And you presume too much upon love. And the Lord told me that he can love you and still move completely according to his plans. God can love you in your grave. You don't know this person. It is quite clear to me that I'm existing in my own bubble in terms of what it means to read the Bible and take God at his word. I'm still adjusting. After almost 7 years, I'm in my 7th year of proclaiming. Of what it means to know that there aren't many people out there who understand that the requirement, the standard is God says something, you read it and you believe it. There's no amendments. In this Bible, God does not have the understanding that there's different interpretations, because that's not what they do. When God says something, everybody in heaven says, I, Captain. No one ever says, well, the Calvinists believe. There's nothing like that, which is why I know that the people who go to Bible school are very dysfunctional, because they take a whole brain in there and then the teachers dedicate 2 and 3 years to sectioning off their brain by telling them, here is the verse. But the Pentecostalists believe this, and the Calvinists believe this, and the whoever's believe this, and the dispensationalists believe this. People who know that there's only one Bible verse per section, 1 Exodus chapter 2 verse 1. There's not 20 Exodus chapter 2 verse 1. There's only 1 Exodus chapter 2 verse 1. And the way to read your Bible is you read Exodus chapter 2 verse 1 in whatever language you speak, whatever it says, that's what it means. Period. You literally define whatever the words are by the Bible, put them together in a sentence structure. That is what it means. Period. There's no nothing lists, interpretations. There's only one Bible, and there's only one way to read the Bible. There's not 50 ways. There's only one way. That's what he was telling me this morning. September the 8th, God was telling me that a lot of people in California in the death toll will be, he said, there will be people who watched you and believed you 100%. He said there will be people who are hoping against hope. I hope I can get it done. I hope that my leave will be approved. You get an analogy by the inspiration of the Holy Spirit that if you went to the ATM to get money out and a man came and put his gun at your back, and the vision of your family and all that you are about to be murdered for a couple of hundred flashes through your eyes, and that guy gets in the back and he says, just drive, and he's going through his own emotional things, and in that moment you don't know if you will see tomorrow, would you or would you not do what that man said? Would you tell that man, no, by October I'll be able to give you everything in my bank account? Is that what you would tell him? Yah was telling me that the death toll will include those who heard, those who believed. They fully believed. These are not mockers and scoffers. They fully believe and they want to lock in, but they have something hindering them. They have something holding their foot. And he told me even their bodies will lie in California, because obedience, Celestial, for it to be obedience, it has to be absolute. That means that you absolutely do need to cut off that job and let them think you're crazy, because it's better they think you're crazy for a short while and then they won't be thinking anything after that forever and you'll be out, than for you to be weighing concerns about, oh, this is what someone will think, that is what someone will think. But that is neither here nor there. In this United States, and I've said it since last year when I started covering these prophecies, there is intention to cut off life. There is intention to cut off life. Black female life, black male life, black child life. Therefore, if the minds in this country continue to have any other kind of appreciation of the situation you find yourself in, if you did not, for instance, watch that prophecy that is called the Bull Doctor, if things were not made plain to you, the females of this nation, anyone, I don't care if you are Jamaican, I don't care if you're Haitian, I don't care if you're Andalusian, I don't care. If you did not watch the Bull Doctor prophecy, you need to go and watch the Bull Doctor prophecy. If you did watch the Bull Doctor prophecy as a woman, as a husband, and you sat in front of that prophecy and you did not get the click in your mind that a society, a system that is willing to consume and eat your babies does not care about you expanding as a society, because everybody knows that the babies continue the lineage. If you didn't understand then what Yah was saying, this one and the other one that I said messed me up so much that I couldn't go to work, will certainly solidify things for you. And before you might ask, but why would he allow this? Because Israel is wicked. The people alive today, you, the descendants, you are 10 billion times worse than the people in the Bible by far. You have exceeded their wickedness. You have exceeded their debauchery. You have exceeded their mockery. I literally do not think that there is any more mocking being upon the earth than a black person. And I'm saying it as a black person, having vast experience with all flavors of mockery from all corners of the world. You are excessively mocking to the point that your soul has no fear in mocking God himself. God will allow you to be chewed up and eaten unto the point where you are driven two places. You will be driven to a scream first with what you see happening to you, and then you will be driven to your knees. You'll scream first, and then you'll go to your knees, and that's the perfect posture for you to start crying out for Jesus. That is when you will focus. You will never mention the name Kemet again. I still have that prophecy. May the Lord have mercy on my soul, because the acid that was coming out of God when he was giving that prophecy about black people following Kemetic religion. What do I know of that? To be waking up in the middle of the night and hearing the rage of God talking about Kemet, then you look it up, it's something to do with Egyptology, and I didn't even look into it deeply, because what does that have to do with me? My brain cells, they function properly. Why do I need to look into Kemetic religion? What does that have to do with me? You want to claim that you are people of God, and yet your entire daily regimen from the minute you open your eyes until you lay down and close them again. The majority, it is to pursue evil. It is to pursue wickedness. It is only to do satanic deeds against the Lord and then assume that you will be allowed to get away with it. The one who can't hear. There are multiple ways that Babylon will eat you up, and God will not fight for you. The first time with Noah, he couldn't find anyone, and so he was content to have a great global reset wherein the majority, in fact, the totality of mankind perished outside. God had to drown all his beautiful animals. He had to drown everything, because even the animals themselves were getting abused by the fallen, getting abused by both the angels themselves and getting abused by their Nephilim offspring. And now completely new brands, hybrid breeds of things were being born. The second time God came to his people and extracted them out of the world, said, "Be a people unto me. Here are my laws. My laws will identify you. My laws will also sanctify you. My laws, if kept, will make you holy and acceptable in my sight." He takes them out of captivity, takes them to the desert to work with them. It was a total fail. It was a total fail. Israel is a most impossible material to work with, a most impossible people. They will come to this prophecy and listen to everything I say and just say to themselves, "Did you hear the part where she said that God said she's the last one?" The way she's so proud, the way you're so deaf, the way you're so deaf, the way you're so obtuse, which means just a blunt instrument that nothing can go inside. It's like the underside of a pot directly behind your eyes. Everything goes in through the eyes and the ears. It just bounces right out. Material things, you can't hear them. Important things, you can't perceive them. Pride is literally killing you, that you can't even identify the main topic, the main salient points in a discourse. The wolves are coming September the 8th, 2025. So I went to bed and I had a very good sleep. And I was very thankful to God for the rest that I had, because it's not always that I get to sleep for very long. But towards the morning, I'm just reading from my notes, towards the morning, the dream that I saw and the way that I experienced it ruined the sleep and made it hard to enjoy, because the dream was so real and so scary that when I woke up, I said, "Lord, is this thing real?" When I got myself together and my mind was working and made sense, I said, "Lord, surely this thing, you won't let it be." But I feel a strong urgency to talk about this dream as soon as possible, even if it is different from the things I'm working on right now, such as all the other earthquake messages that are still not done. So in this dream, I went to an apartment building to see a friend. And for me, it is very important to explain to you the setup of what I'm trying to describe. I really want it to be clear in your mind so that when I describe what happened next, I will not be the only person living in the United States who is incredulous that such a thing can happen, that such a thing can ever be done, that such a thing will ever actually be gotten away with. I went to an apartment building to see a friend, but I had not been to that particular place before. And so when I saw myself in the dream, I seemed to be relying very heavily on the navigation tools of my phone, my Google Maps, and also looking up every minute to match what I was seeing on Google Maps to my surroundings. Now, I don't know if I had taken the train there or if I had taken an Uber there and then the Uber left. What I experienced was this. I don't know if you've ever been to these areas that are mostly apartments, but the way that they've been built up, it's so nice because they allow for streets in between. They allow for streets in between. And so it almost looks like a kind of, I guess you might call it a little village. It looks like a little village where people live. And these kinds of areas are always so nice because immediately you will see the bodegas springing up in those areas so that you can get your late night sandwiches and things like that. You will see every type of ethnic restaurant. Okay, there's going to be the Greek restaurants, there's going to be the Indian restaurants, there's going to be the separate Indian restaurants that don't serve meat, the vegetarian ones. There's usually so many different options for food, all of them ethnic. So you're not really going to find European fine dining in those areas like Italian and French. No, you won't find that kind of thing. You're going to find the pizza available. You're going to find the roti available. You're going to find the gyros available. It's just going to be a hodgepodge. And then in between, there were these apartment buildings that were only 2 stories. And those ones are very nice and not so easy to get into because obviously the more stories an apartment building has, then the more units it has, and the more units it has, obviously it increases the density of where you live. But these ones being only 2 stories, from the thickness of them, I think they were maybe maximum containing 8 units. And so here's an apartment building. Oh Lord, help me to explain. I'm coming down a path about to enter what is this village that I'm describing. And in there are multiple buildings, each serving as apartment sections. Some of them are this nice terracotta orange. Some of them are navy. Some of them are sage, which is a light form of green. Some of them are forest green. Some of them are off-white. The way they are set up, the place is actually quite large. And then they have thoroughfares or roads in between that 2 lanes of cars can go. Plus there's parking. The place is very nice. So I'm walking into a path that's going to basically enter me into this place. And what I didn't know is that an ICE raid had been planned on that exact place, at that exact moment, that the agents were already positioned across the entire complex. Okay? So this thing is maybe 3 levels in, and there's ICE agents across the entire complex. At that exact moment, they're planning a raid. They're hiding in their cars or wherever they were hiding, behind a bush. I do not know because, like I said, my attention was fully taken up with my phone and the GPS and then matching like, oh, okay, so this on the, okay, because I'm trying to find the building that has my friend's unit in it. And I didn't know that ICE was all through the place and that they were only awaiting for some kind of signal to come out from all the corners and start rushing on all of the units to break in and get people. I need you to pay attention to what I'm saying. ICE is positioned all through a residential area that, even though it has food and places to fix your phone and everything, it is still sort of like an enclosed residential area that we will just call something like a housing village. And ICE is waiting to rush up on all these units to start breaking in and grabbing people. But at that point, before it happened, I saw people amicably walking all through the neighborhood. I saw families walking home together. The bus will come at a certain place and then the kids pile up and then parents are waiting there and they just get them and start walking. So I saw families walking back home together. I saw guys and girls with backpacks, some with headphones, some with not, some walking in a group, some walking by themselves, girls walking their dogs, people jogging by, and just this nice open area with these apartments in different colors. And I was thinking, this place is so modern. And all of a sudden, this horrible Afghanistan cry, right? Yemen cry, Iraq cry, whatever they holler out there before they open fire on people. I just said this horrible war zone cry goes out, and the ICE agents burst out from so many places all at once to start rushing on any and every person in that community, regardless if it was just a person who was passing by, regardless if it was just somebody who had come to visit like me, regardless of if the person was actually living there and about to enter into their apartment building, or if the person had just locked their apartment behind them, come down the stairs and entered out into the streets. The ICE agent, somebody just gave a horrible war zone cry. like, do it now or something. I don't know. And these people just burst out and started laying hold of any and everyone. And I'm telling you, all hell broke loose. And at first, nobody of us, the civilians, knew what was going on. And then, as we have started to commonly see pretty much since January, when ICE began to deploy, most people are experiencing ICE fatigue. Those who have been keeping up, because ICE has been active since, I would basically say, January, the day of, or the next week after the inauguration. But now what we're starting to see is that the ways of ICE are so far divorced from any form of actual law, actual order, and actual constitutionality of the United States legal system. This is why ICE is coming under censure. This is why ICE is drawing the eye, because people are thinking, what on earth is this? What kind of behavior is this? What kind of activity is this? This is illegal. This is illegal. This is illegal. They're racking up points on the board of everything that is illegal, but for some reason, Americans keep skipping the crux of the matter. It doesn't matter if it's illegal. You need to think deeper than that. It's illegal, but they're still doing it, which means that legality in America has changed. It's just you that doesn't want to admit it. Legality in America has changed. It's just you that doesn't want to accept it. You want to keep playing by the old metrics, although you are subscribed to and following a channel that keeps telling you that if you keep operating at the old metrics, they're going to kill you. In some of these scenarios, it doesn't matter what color you are. The government is going to see to it that you're not breathing anymore, because I always keep telling you, the person who doesn't update their hard drive is the person who automatically loses the game, because the game is constantly evolving. You may not want to accept it's a game because you're a single mother and you don't have time for games. You don't want to live in a nation that has suddenly turned the political system and the military into a game. It doesn't matter what you want. It is a game. It is a game. And whoever doesn't keep up with the rules of the game as the goalposts keep moving, if you for 1 second stop and think that the way to play this game is to stop and say, but the goalposts keep moving, you will end up without air. You will end up underneath the ground, not on top of it. When the goalposts move, you better move. When the goalposts shift, you better shift. That's what I said the people in the Midwest and the South were doing during the zombie years. That's what they were doing during the collapsing America years. I described to you those people that when all the liberals and but the Constitution said, I said, yeah, when you were having your meltdown in the dream, what I saw is that the people down south who pretty much don't care what the Constitution says, because they're like, I don't know, it's America. I said, I saw them sitting on their porch. They were in their right mind. And the shell-shocked people who were like, oh, they broke all the laws. When you were walking by having your mental breakdown, those people were sitting on their porches and yelling, it's a corporation. They were basically saying, why are you shocked that the American government is a scam? And it's not about Trump's America or Biden's America. The government, the entity, the existence of it, the thing that rules and controls and has hold of this nation is a massive scam. And those people always knew it. I said that those are the people who never took, what's that thing they were giving people in COVID? The payouts, whatever the money was called, the COVID money that they were giving to help people. Those people never accepted it. Those people never stopped paying their bills. Those of them who were homeowners were not bothered about paying rent and things like that. If they worked for themselves or they owned farms or things like that, they were not perturbed. They were yelling out, it's a corporation, as if to say, this is a big business we live in. Why are you angry when the business owners do things to increase their profit margin, and by extension, they do things to cut their labor force, like actually cut it, like actually kill their labor force, which is the people in the country. How can you be living in America and not know where you live? How can you for one second lay your head on your pillow in this country and actually think you're living in a normal functioning nation, instead of laying inside a business where they're always looking for ways to increase the profit margin and cut the labor force? Those people didn't suffer mental breakdowns because they hadn't invested their hearts and souls. in Mother America. Yah was showing me that those people had been raised by parents who told them, when the government does right, you do right. When the government does wrong, you take care of you. And both the child and the parent knew what they meant by take care of you. They don't teach people that in modern cities, in the urban areas. They sit and they drink mocha latte and talk about, I don't know, but a firearm seems so violent to me. And there's been a triple murder next door at the house. So the killer had a firearm. And if the other person had had one, maybe the outcome would have been a little different. Deterrent might have worked. But then they will sit and say, I don't know. And there are people in parts of this country who are not hampered by that kind of thinking. And that kind of disparity in thought, mind you, is why America is going to go to war. You've heard all these things before. But here, these people burst out. They started rushing on anyone, regardless on if the person was just coming from outside the village, cutting through the village to go out, regardless if someone just said, hey, let me go out and get a burger, and stepped out of their house. There's no warrant for this person's arrest who just decided he wants a burger. Even if he steps out into a raid, he should be absolutely free from harm. If someone has just picked up their child from the bus stop and is walking with their little one through the village and is just about to make their apartment and this raid kicks off, technically, that is none of that person's business, because no warrant is searching for them according to the U.S. constitutional laws. No one has arrested them. No probable cause has been given to them. They've had no rights read to them. So no one should be doing to them what I'm about to say next. People at first didn't know what was going on. And then, as we've commonly seen, as these ICE raids have increased, people realized, oh, it's ICE. And they started to reach for phones, to take their phones out to record, because that's what people do now. When ICE shows up, people reach for their phones to record. They reach for their phones so that they can record and say, shame on you. Shame on you. Where's your shame? Does your mother know that you're doing this? You're a shame. You're a disgrace. You're a disgrace to the Constitution. You're a disgrace to the flag. You're a disgrace to our communities. You're hypocrites. And they call them bad words and things like that. And so they were reaching for their phones, which has become standard when you see an ICE raid going on. Record, blame them, shame them, drive them out of the area by sheer force of numbers. But it didn't go like that this time, because just as the people were giving angry shouts like this, no ICE in our streets, no ICE in our streets, down with ICE, down with tyranny. Just as they were doing all that, the ICE agents pulled out weapons, took the safety off, and started firing on the people in the streets indiscriminately. Yes, I said that the immigration agents who used to be confined to their work building, and occasionally only in Trump presidencies would they actually leave to go and do what we will call field work. These agents had guns, which was shocking to me to start with. They were armed and they fired at will into the crowd that was still forming and getting ready to harass and heckle them. People were so surprised because there wasn't even a warning shot fired into the air to let people know that live rounds are in play. Warning shot, 2 warning shots in the air to let people know we've got guns, we're armed. Nothing like that. They pulled out guns and they started to shoot directly into the crowd. And this is when God began to do this produced by Michael Bay kind of Quentin Tarantino thing with the dream. I had not yet entered into what I would call perhaps 1 street, 2 streets, 3 streets of the village. Let's say the village is 3 streets deep. Every street has apartment buildings on both sides. And at some point with the buildings, there's a beautiful kind of cathedral arc that will allow you to go into the second set of streets, buildings, cathedral arc. I was in the first cathedral arc, coming out through that tunnel that would put me into the first street with buildings. So I had not yet stepped in, and so I had a perfect view of what was taking place in both the first and also by the Lord, the 2nd Street. And what I saw is that I saw the ICE agents were deliberately taking aim and shooting at people in a way as to kill them. They were deliberately aiming at the people and shooting in them in such a way as to kill them. I didn't see these men shooting to disable. I didn't see these men aiming for a flesh wound, to clip or to disable, to take the people down. And also the ICE agents were not in any kind of imminent life-threatening situation. Nothing like that was happening to them. I saw these men sighting down the barrel. Like when you go to the gun range with friends and all of you have bet on the winner getting a steak dinner for everybody else, or the loser will get the steak dinner, or whatever the case. They were sighting down the barrel like when you go to the gun range or when you're training for the academy, police, army. When you use both hands, you cocked one eye. You use one hand, you cock your head, and you even perhaps stick out your tongue to get better aim. With deliberate focus, God showed me the ICE agents shooting at American citizens and whoever else might have been passing in that first open street. And I hid along the curve. I just pressed my body, because when you're in a tunnel, there's nowhere to hide. If you even step out into the middle of it, your whole silhouette is shown. So I pressed myself into the part of the curve that was shaded, because I hadn't yet come out, and I was completely aghast. I said, oh no, they're actually killing these people on purpose. And I could not inhale, because for some reason, Yah was doing this dream like in the action movies. Actually, the person who does it best is Guy Ritchie, who will zoom, and as it gets in, it slows down and you get to watch all the motion of what the person is doing, and then it goes and goes somewhere else. And the first place the camera went was to this man who was on one side of his car. He was shooting over the hood of his car and then coming back down. The ICE agent, he is the one that had the double-handed grip, his head to the side and his tongue sticking out as he was taking aim. And the first person, when Yah was doing this speed zoom in large slow-mo and then speed zoom to see where the bullet was going, this man was a top shooter. And I would say that in this raid, this man got the highest amount of people. He was on one knee behind the hood of his car, shooting across the top of the hood, taking deliberate aim with his tongue out. And the first person he shot was a tall American boy, lanky boy. I would put that boy at about 23 years old, with red hair, having oversized headphones on his head. He was wearing some kind of woolly gray light knit and jeans and sneakers, and he had a backpack on his back. This man shot this boy on purpose, directly in some kind of major neck artery, and the neck went pew, like pew, with just like that, with blood coming out, and the impact made the boy's head jerk back. His glasses flew off, the headphones flew off, and he dropped like a sack of flour, falling backwards to fall on his backpack. God the thing back to the man. The man grinned. You know, that kind of private grin that if no one is recording it, no one will ever see. That small smirk that you do when you take pride in a job well done. This man was such a good shooter that this man, when he fired off the bullet, just by the trajectory, he would smile before it hit his target, because that's what much he knew of a good shot he was. He just grinned, small moment of enjoyment he allowed himself, and then he turned that double-handed grip on another person, an Indian girl, same focus, same shot. Pew! That's what he was doing. Next. That man took out the most people. So when you want to run away, but the entire scene is chaos, and you just know that if you step one toe from the place where you're currently still surviving, so that place is good to you, that spot that you had, it might be next to the sewer drain, it might be in a bush, wherever it is, that initial spot is good to you, and something is telling you, if you step a toe from this spot where you're currently surviving, you'll die. And so I just stayed pressed up against the curve of that building, the same way you see my hand casting in the shadow. I'm standing in that little shadow that my hand is casting. And I just stood there watching hired agents that the United States government had given weapons firing on people in broad daylight, and I could not believe my eyes. Right away I had another dream. Or maybe it was the same dream, just another location. I don't know. This time it wasn't anything urban. I found myself something like at a farm in the country. Anyway, it looked kind of dusty, okay? It looked like these places that you would see in the movies, that kind of dusty, and the gas station is like 5 miles away or something like that. And it was an ICE raid about to take place on a work site or something like a factory. And it was a place where they had been told, you should come here. I'm literally reading to you in the dream how it was being laid on my heart. Somebody made the phone call, okay, and they told ICE this: you should come here. There's a lot of illegal workers out here. They've been at it so long at that work site, so I'm sure those workers are illegal, and you won't go empty-handed if you come out here. So this time in the dream, I got to see the ICE workers arrive. I got to see the ICE agents arrive. In the other dream, I don't know where those people came from, whether they were lying flat in their cars or whatever. But in this dream, I got to see as they pulled up, I saw them coming in their personal cars and trucks. And I also saw them coming with the big white detainment vans that they use for transporting the people that they arrest. So it's like I was watching from a certain distance, okay? I wasn't too far. I don't know how to say it in feet, but let's just say if something is happening across the street, you can see it across the street pretty good. You can see faces, you can see everything. So it was like that. So I saw ICE pull up. And then they went into 2 low-built factory buildings, meaning it was only 1-story factory building that is very wide, right? They went into the 2 low factory buildings, and I didn't hear anything. And then I saw them bringing out a decent number of people, like 20-something people, who appeared mostly to be of Latin American descent. Some of them were a little darker than most, some of them dark enough that you would be forgiven for thinking, oh, maybe this is somebody from Guyana, maybe this is somebody from Barbados, Haiti, maybe this is an African person, because they definitely were darker than the Latinos, and they also, some of them had distinctly different features, you know, but I can't say definitively that they were or were not, because they could have easily been from all the same areas, because you know that there's so much different etymology in Latin America, with some of them being very dark, some of them having immediate African ancestors and something like that. There's many different shades within the same race. These captured people that I saw did not resist. They had been completely surprised by this ICE raid, and so they did not come out scuffing their feet. This is the kind of place where people mostly wear Midwestern boots, okay, or Western boots, cowboy boots. Not everybody's wearing sneakers like we do in urban areas. They literally will wear boots, and if they're walking, sometimes if it's dry enough, the ground will make dust clouds as a person walks. So they were bringing them out, and they weren't having to drag them or anything, because what I could see is that the men were demoralized, and we can already see enough footage of that. The minute that ICE catches these people, all the life goes out of them, all the interest goes out of them, everything goes out of them, because they know what's coming. They know the detention that's coming. They know the lack of access to a lawyer that's coming. They know all the breaking of the amendments, even though they probably don't see themselves as people who have claim to the amendments. But the U.S. Constitution that says it says in many places any person, which means living within the environs of the United States. You are supposed to have recourse to U.S. representation and the cover and protection of U.S. law until you are actually found guilty of a crime that you have been expressly and distinctly charged with, and that there's paperwork with your name on it to start with. But these people were not resisting. They were not expecting the raid at all, so they didn't try to run. They had all been inside working hard. So when ICE came for them, none of them were even outside, for instance, right, to see the ICE cars pull up, whereby that one could run off and save himself, or run inside and tell the others, they're here, nothing like that. They just looked defeated as I saw the agents bringing them out in handcuffs and lining them up in the front. They brought them out in front of the buildings, but more like around where the cars were all kind of gathered and parked in. And then just like that, I saw ICE shoot these handcuffed men. I saw the men were kind of loosely grouped together, and I thought that they would talk to them or tell them, you've broken U.S. law or something. These people just picked up and started shooting these people. And I think they got about 3 or 4 of them because they were shooting them dead in the chest. They got about 3 or 4 of them before the rest of them immediately clocked what was happening, and they screamed in terror, and they scattered in all different directions of the dusty area where the factory was. It looked like a small town or a farming community where this was taking place. These men started running, and to their credit, even though they were handcuffed, very few of them fell down. It is not easy to run with your hands tied either behind your back or handcuffed in front, to not pitch forward or lose your balance. But the fear I could see on the face of these men that America has now insisted on calling migrant workers, the fear because of them being shot at without any explanation. And what explanation could there possibly be for that? They ran, but none of them made it. ICE shot them all without even having to chase them much or do anything. The men were too scattered, they were too scared, and they were screaming, and some of them fell right at that same spot. Some of them didn't even run. 1 or 2, seeing what happened, immediately just weakened. They just fell to their knees right there in front of the ICE agents and started speaking in their language and begging for their lives. The others who ran were all killed. In total, about 20-something people were killed at that work site. And when they were all dead, when the screaming was done, the sound in the dream turned off. The ICE agents dragged all the people back to one sort of rough circle area around their cars in the dream, pulling them, they're leaving their blood in the dust, and then just sort of kicked them roughly into a group. And then they stood around discussing what to do. Now I'm looking at them and they're talking, but there's no sound in the dream. So I don't know what they said, but my mind was ringing loud as fire alarm bells. I was so terrified, thinking, oh, they executed those people. They killed them in cold blood. Now what are they going to do? How are they going to cover this up? How will they cover up their crime? And that dream switched off. And later I saw how. I saw a press conference being held at the White House. The way I saw this press conference was, it was a room, and let's say the room has a door on the side. And if you look through the door, what you will see is the podium, that White House podium that they make all the announcements from. So that's what you will see. If you look through a door, again, I was at a distance. So if I was to look through that door, I would see a man at the podium with an arrangement of men and women behind him, very sober-faced. And I didn't see who the man at the podium was. For some reason, his face wasn't too clear, so I didn't get to see who it was. And then if I were to peek into the room, I would see the whole bevy of the press. I would see them sitting there. There was so much buzz and chatter in that room. And what Yah was showing me was in capital letters, the incident. The incident. So this murder of the migrant workers was being referred to by the United States as the incident. And I'm going to pause here before I continue explaining what was happening. I shared with you several years ago. If you're an old subscriber, you will know this because I was at pains to teach you this when I started prophecies about the beast system towards the end of 2020 and definitely heavy in 2021 and 2022. Those were years where I really was bringing out prophecies about what the coming system that is ruled by Satan is going to be like. And one of the lessons that I taught here is that words are very powerful and words have meanings. Words are important. Words have application. And there's more to language than most people bother to pay attention to or understand. And that's because a lot of people now, they don't prioritize education. Even those who have access to education, even the richest one, they go to school to make friends, to hang out, to get girls, to meet boys, to smoke drugs, to go to the frat parties. They don't prioritize basically the armor or the clothing that language and speech really are. And I said that America fully understands the importance of speech, and America fully understands how to weaponize speech. And as I'm speaking here, I'm going to share a personal example that happened to me just in the past week, that I literally had to employ spiritual wisdom and speak to God before the thing that was happening to me would stop. But America, let's talk about America right now. America understands the importance of speech so much. America understands the importance of language, and America knows how to use speech. She knows how to use turn of phrase. She knows how to use language to get almost any mood that she wants in the population. So, for instance, America will use inflammatory language like this sacred land, attack, terror, fear. She will use those words, and then the whole country will stand up in arms and say, go and bomb everyone. Bomb Saddam, bomb his kids, bomb everything, bomb the whole country, kill every Iraqi because they're like this and like this and like this. But they've been incited to it by the government. I made an example in one of the old prophecies and says that the average person in America doesn't even know what an oligarch is. But simply because that word was dropped like a bloody piece of flesh into a tank of baby sharks, everybody in America, I think it was in 2022, whatever new fake thing that they said Russia did, it was the Russian oligarchs. The Russian oligarchs have done that. The Russian oligarchy, the Russian oligarchy, the Russian oligarchs. It was everywhere. And I was so annoyed because I was like, if you just pull one of them aside and tell them, define the word oligarch and use it in a sentence related to economics, the person won't be able to do it. What happens is that Fox News was saying it, liberal news stations were saying it, everybody was saying it, and then it entered the general parlance of American speech. But if you notice, it's gone now, and that's because the newscasters don't say it anymore. And so another thing, it happened in COVID, right? They created frontline workers, they created essential workers, and they began to basically separate the population into essential services and non-essential services. And for instance, all the major food chains who were still making their billions, they were considered essential services. So all the McDonald's, all the Wendy's, all the whatevers, they were allowed to stay open. But for some reason, mom and pop stores, who usually have better cleanliness standards, they're not selling dried rats as beef patty. They're selling actual food that will rot, but you can buy a McDonald's burger and keep it until your first child graduates from a PhD course, which we all know is like the first 11 years of school plus his first degree, second degree, third degree. When that guy finally gets his PhD or girl finally gets her PhD, that McDonald's burger will look as fresh as it did when you bought it when they first set off to baby school. McDonald's doesn't rot. McDonald's is nothing but Soylent Green. Go look that up. McDonald's is nothing but chemicals. McDonald's is nothing but a lot of stuff that kills the human body. But these large corporations were allowed by the government to stay open because America is proud of protecting big business. America doesn't care about you that has a great idea that wants to try and get your little 500,000 orders shipped so you can get your mom a better house and find your place in the circle of life. You will never be protected in not only this economy, a Republican economy, a liberal economy, a democratic economy will not protect you. You will never be protected because you are not big business. You don't fall under the qualification too big to fail. In fact, you're too small to be cared about. That's your designation. And so the use of words in this country over and over again has told Americans who to see as an enemy. This nation is xenophobic in the extreme because it has been taught by its leaders that anyone who is not white is not right. They are to regard all other skin tones and all other, for instance, cultural dressing styles with suspicion because they are not the mainstream. And this is perpetrated generation to generation without anyone questioning it. My own personal experience came when I was working with someone recently, and this person is of Mexican descent, and this lady and I are working, and I find this lady so helpful in so many ways. And out of nowhere, I kid you not, a loud voice in my brain says, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right because I'm not stopping to look it up, Tren de Aragua. So authoritatively, Tren de Aragua. I hear it in my brain twice. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like God. I can't continue working with this lady. The two of us are working. We're discussing this and that and that. She's definitely a Mexican lady. Tren de Aragua. This thing happened for, I think, maybe 7 to 8 times before it finally dawned on me. Where is the origin of this thing? Tren de Aragua is a phrase that the Trump administration has basically thrown into the water so that hopefully all Americans will see every single Mexican on earth as a gang member. It is a term that I'm not saying doesn't exist. This is some kind of Mexican gang, I think, or a Mexican cartel. These people do exist. However, this phrase is being used to preface almost every single attack on people from Mexico or whatever country that gang comes from. It has been abused by the current administration ad nauseum. And it's not as if I live on the moon. I have a TV. I have a phone. Occasionally, this stuff leaks in. This phrase popped up out of the repository of words that I've heard. And this phrase was trying to attach itself to this lady for no other reason than the fact that she is a Mexican. And when my brain finally, because my brain is dealing with this in the subconscious because I'm working with this person and I don't have time for just random statements that I know it's not God. When God wants to say something and God says something to me the first time he says it, even if he says only the part of a verse, even if he just says a part of a verse, I will know that's my Father's voice. But for just a random Tren de Aragua, it just comes in. And I'm working with this lady. So my brain is helping me. And subconsciously, my brain is like, first of all, what's the origin of this phrase? What does Tren de Aragua mean? How much Spanish do I know? Nothing. If we're going beyond hola, too bad. So my brain is working this out. And my brain goes, my brain manages to locate where it comes from. It has definitely come from Republican White House, Trump White House press conference. That's where it's come from. Secondly, it has come in part of the administration's brand new insistence that it saw the bat signal in the sky and it decided to fight crime. If you are sitting in America and you actually think that this current administration is fighting crime, I'm sorry for you because I don't know who let you out of kindergarten. This is the premise upon which the New World Order, the thing that God calls Donald Trump's assignment. I just did these prophecies in, I think, end of July, beginning of August, the thing that Yah calls Donald Trump's assignment, the assignment has to go forward on some kind of legs. And so the legs that it's going forward, the reason that you see and are enduring tanks in LA and tanks in Washington, D.C., and soon tanks in Chicago and Baltimore and other places, is under the pretext of fighting crime. But it's not actually fighting crime. It is slowly and surely putting the country under a new type of executive that will not answer to the judges and that will not answer to Congress. And so my brain is working this thing out and telling me, oh, okay, it's a catchphrase. It means gangs. It means cartels. There you go, Celestial. That's the work I've done so far. It's a gang, it's a cartel, and it most likely has popped up for you to have ingrained suspicion and racism towards this woman for absolutely no reason at all. When I realized this thing, I was so annoyed. I was so annoyed because if there's one thing that I do not like, it is pointless information leaking into my brain unannounced. Most people don't watch over the real estate of their brain. They will have a thought pop in and they will just assume, well, if the thought is here, it must be my thought. If the thought is here, it must be a legit thought. And then they accept the thought. There's nothing like that in my brain. You will justify your reasons for coming. You will justify your reason as a thought for being in my brain. Who sent you? You're based on what? Are you affiliated with the Word of God? Do you know Jesus as your Lord and Savior? What kind of thought is this? How come I'm running quickly through my tiny little lexicon of Bible knowledge, and this thing that you're suggesting to me, it makes no sense. Why are you suggesting to me that I should feel stressed, for instance, about the way the economy is going? Are you my provider? How come you don't match up where it says he will supply all of your needs? All of your needs in Christ. He will supply all your needs. Why are you trying to introduce to me an idea that I do not have a shepherd and that I shall not want? Why are you trying to make me anxious about toilet tissue and the price of beef? I don't know you. I don't recognize you. You don't match up with what I do over here. So I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. Most people are not policing their brains like that. Their brains are just like wide open superhighways. Anything that someone says, Celestia, what do you think about what this person said? I will never answer you, because the idea that you and that person have that conversation going on and then you want me to weigh in to whatever corn and barley you're listening to, why would you want to do that to me? Why? If you see someone climbing a sheer rock face and you just want to sit down on the ground with the buffalo, why would you ask the person that you see going higher to come back downstairs and have basement conversations with you? These things, they boggle my mind. They obviously really do. And so when this thing happened, when this word, this thing that just randomly got into the pool of my soul pops up and is trying to tell me, gang member, I was so annoyed that I had to speak to God. And I said, God, do you see how things happen in this country because of the medium, because of the media, because of TikTok, because of the news? Can you imagine what the average Fox News viewer's brain is like? And then when you're done, can you imagine what the average viewer of Rachel Maddow and general CNN content is like? And then try to imagine why conversations that you hear in the wild are so wildly partisan and irrational to any brain that doesn't come from America. Just step here from Australia, be quiet, go to the coffee shop and listen to the people that live in this country talk. You will move your ticket up and go back home. You absolutely will. You will not know what is happening around you and the rapid speed, certainty, and confidence with which it is happening. So this is the thing. Words are important. And in the past, I was teaching us here and saying, you will know that you are in danger when they start changing the names of everything. I told you. Everyone is now stunned, right? That the president changed the Department of Defense to the Department of War. But you know that you're only stunned because you're pretending. Because prior to that, he created a department straight out of 1984. The Department of Government Efficiency. The day I heard that name, I knew not to look at the name On the surface, department, okay, it's a section of, okay, government efficiency. That's not what you look at. You don't look at government efficiency. If there's a department in charge of government efficiency, obviously, in order for the government to be efficient, everything inefficient has to be done away with. That's why they've smashed up the government. They said they were eliminating bloat. Who told you that they were going to eliminate bloat years ago? And that the bloat will come down to us, the human being. We will be considered bloat. As soon as you're not efficient, as according to the AI, as soon as the AI say, this person is dumb, you will be disposed of. They will recommend you for termination. And woe unto you if you're getting diabetes medication through the state. You will have to go to the fringes. Remember the fringes? The people who will break away, the people they will cast out of society. The doctors who will refuse to do New World Order things and give people potions, and they will lose their license. Just because you take away a doctor's license doesn't mean you take away his brain, his years of training. We will have doctors. The doctors will be in the fringes. You can still go to the doctor and deliver your baby, and then he will say, Can you do this? Can you fix this old car for me? And then he will give your wife, he will deliver your wife for free, and then you fix his car. That will be the alternate economy if you don't want to live in the potion drinking world. The world where they want to extend their lifespan through transhumanism and things like that. And so when the president changed the department to the Department of War, you as an American, if you are so minded to conserve your cortisol and not give yourself hypertension, all you have to do is remember that in order for the beast to establish itself, it has to change the times and the laws. And that means changing the meanings of words. I've said it here in so many instances. Abortion is murder, but when you change it to health care, it means something else. When Joe Biden was basically railroaded out of the presidency, it wasn't called what God called it. God had been prophesying and saying that there was going to be a coup in the White House. And all that old man's colleagues, Kamala herself, Hakeem Jeffries, Nancy Pelosi, they even went and recruited all the stars. Who remembers that? Joe Biden is endangering the country and everything like that. They basically staged a cold coup on that man. But when it was time for him to leave, I kid you not, first time in my life I've ever seen this. The president came out to resign his position, to resign his position in the race, but they titled it like a movie. Who remembers that? It was a live streamed event, I think on MSNBC. They had the exclusive. It was titled The Decision. Like, sir, what do you mean the decision? These people cuckolded you out of your job. What do you mean the decision? What decision did you make? Who's this? You mean the other Democrats' decision to boot you out and replace you? Why do we use such grandiose, such theatrical? Because this whole country is an ongoing movie. That's why. We are the unwitting audience. And if you go and watch the prophecy cameo, I'm going to make sure to leave it for you in the description. If you watch the prophecy cameo, you will see your heavenly Father telling you quite clearly that the entire nation runs by set changes. Act 1, Act 1, Scene 1, Act 1, Scene 2, Act 1, Scene 3, and then Scene 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, and move to Act 3. The entire nation is a theatrical production with actors coming and going like Elon Musk. People, I asked and nobody bothered to answer me how a man traditionally blue spun himself red in 3 licks of a chicken's tail and became a Republican and the nation bought it. Like nobody asked how that man had been a tech bro voting blue his whole life, affiliated with the Democratic Party his whole life, and then triple backflipped along with all that technology into the Republican Party. And then just as suddenly as he appeared larger than life, dominating every headline, best buddies with the president. He exits in a blaze of smoke, and we haven't heard a word from him in months. Just the occasional tweet to let us know that he hasn't actually been kidnapped by Tren de Aragua. And the people in this nation, they don't keep an eye on the dots connecting it for the most part, because you know what? Life is hard enough and bills are high enough, and most people don't have the time to think this deep. But that is all the Lord has me doing, looking at how dots connect. Words are important. When you change words, you literally can change the scope of a problem. You can create a problem that's not there with just a few words. You can engender hope with just a few words. I believe that change is coming to 8 years, and you don't know what the change was. 8 solid years. All your love, all your faithfulness behind Barack Obama to this day. Let's ask you what the change was. Ask you to point to the legislation that made your life better. Ask you to point to the single bill that dropped in your life when the so-called melanin came to the White House. Up to now, you don't know. You're just hanging on like a loyalist because that's what the words told you to do. Words are important. When words are changed, people can be devalued. You no longer see them as people. You no longer see them as the hardworking immigrants, right? The word immigrant usually had a positive spin in America. American dispensation has removed the first I am. Now it's just migrant, and all of a sudden you conjure up a dirty, tobacco chain smoking, lazy, wants to steal from the American economy person. But that's because most people are not being responsible over what goes into their brain. They allow the picture to be formed by them. They are told migrant, bad, and then everywhere they look. As I'm sitting here right now, it's dawning on me that my prophecy has fulfilled. Because in this dream, somebody called and said, come on out to this factory. But it's a fact on the internet that people have been snitching. Even lawyers have been snitching on their clients. Lawyers have been snitching on the people that they're supposed to do the appeals for at the ICE courts and everything like that, appeals at the courts. They've been the one putting in anonymous calls that I've got an entire family here. And then when the people get rejected, they come outside. ICE is waiting. The Hyundai plant that just got raided, and the majority of the people in there actually had B1 visas, temporary B1 visas to come and instruct American workers on something to do with the car plant. What would you say if I told you that there's a white blonde lady smugly sitting on TikTok right now? Can you imagine the hubris in this woman is so massive that she did not want the praise for her heroic patriotic action going to anyone else. The lady outed herself, gave her full first and second government name to say, yes, I'm the one who called ICE. But when I did a prophecy from years ago, the prophecy is from 2020 or 2021, that is called telling. Telling. A prophecy in which American citizens will snitch for glam, for vibes, because of wickedness, because of credits from the government, because of benefits from the government that the government would be offering them, because they don't like the person I said they would call and snitch. I have been telling you here incessantly that it's your blood family members that will call and snitch on you. This lady, I looked at this thing, I ran the TikTok back just to be sure that I wasn't hallucinating, that an event that most are saying could damage relations between the United States and South Korea in an already tumultuous time for trade. America asked these people to come and build a factory. The people came and built the factory, and then they sent over their own workers, obviously, because they want to watch over their investment. And then an American called and said, migrants, illegal migrants, are working in slavery conditions in the South Korean factory. Now South Korea came upset, has scooped most of their people and taken them home. And this lady is sitting, I said, face out on the internet, saying with MAGA pride that she's the snitch. But when I was saying it, then people were telling me to my face in my comments, we're good people here and Americans stand by one another. That doesn't sound possible. So who do you think is calling up all the ICE raids? You think that ICE is like what? Prescient. They're like angels. I'm picking up someone in Oregon. Is that what you think is going on? You think these people are just magically only relying on their data centers and cell phone records to find everybody? There's a ton of phone calls going on as neighbors in the community are ratting out other people. So let's come back to this last part of the dream. Words are important. And as I was looking at this last part of this dream, I saw that what had happened when they killed all those Latin American people, it was being termed by the government as the incident. I saw a press conference being held at the White House. I explained to you how if I stood afar off, I could see into the room, and all I could see was a man at the podium with men and women standing behind him with various levels of serious face. But if I had come closer and peeked in, I would have been able to see the press sitting there. The room was packed because the government was about to explain to the press and the rest of us about the incident. The incident is how they were calling that mass murder that I had witnessed. And finally, when the buzzing in the room settled down, somebody with authority to speak for the government stepped up, and this is what he said. Earlier this week, during a routine ICE operation at apprehending illegal migrant workers who, as you know, have been steadily infiltrating into our country in the last few years, an incident occurred that has left a number of illegal migrants dead. The agency responsible for the safety of our borders received a tip-off that certain illegal migrants were controlling a work site just outside of God didn't allow me to hear where the incident had taken place. And our agents acted on the information in good faith and went to claim the territory from them. When the illegals became aware that our team had arrived to take the territory back from them, they in unison tried to prevent our agents from apprehending them by opening fire on them. It was a very dangerous situation for these brave men who put their lives on the line for us every day. They're protecting your freedoms. They're protecting your liberties. Yet the conditions they face are getting more and more dangerous every day. These are family men, men who serve the government. They could have been very badly hurt, but tactical training and quick reflexes came through, and the illegal migrants were put down with no harm sustained by our men. That is all we have for you right now. We will not be taking questions at this time. Now, of course, whenever you say that, the press is going to erupt in a frenzy. And this time was no different. The press had a ton of things they wanted to know. Was that it? Is that the whole statement? Did the government know for sure that these were perhaps migrant workers? Maybe it was one of the gangs or the cartels who were only pretending to be migrant workers to enter the country. This was somebody else's question. Somebody else was like, but why would migrant workers open fire on ICE agents? I mean, these raids have been routine. What was so different about this one? Why would these workers feel so threatened that they would open fire on the agents? Someone else said, is it possible that someone tipped them off and that's why they felt they had to defend themselves? Someone else says, what do you think this chapter means now for good relations with Mexico? I mean, these deaths did happen. Does America still think that it's possible to have good working relations with Mexico after this? The press was throwing out so many questions, and I could hear the pictures being taken. But there were no answers forthcoming from the man at the podium. He just stood there immovable with his people, his several male and females, flanking him. And they all had this easy look of people who can stand there all day without saying anything further, while the one who was giving the press conference looked positively pleased with himself. And that's how that dream ended. That distance between them in that room and me standing outside started increasing as God started moving me away from the door. And then eventually the gap between us was so wide that I couldn't see them anymore. And I woke up from that dream with a jerk and with a shock. I was disoriented, still tired, still sleepy. I wanted to sleep more, but I also felt fear. And when I could make sense to myself, I said, Lord, the guns, they shot those people. They shot them both times when they were running away. They had guns. They had live ammunition. How come? And this is what Yah said to me. He said, these men are about to start doing deliberate killings to get rid of people because the current method is not working as effectively to achieve the objective they want. They want to remove and reduce the population of Black and brown communities altogether. Their goal is not to remove them, as in just deport them or put them into holding. They want to remove them altogether so that when a branch is removed, there is no chance of that branch ever coming back. This is exclusively targeted towards Black and brown communities. There is no difference between them to these people, and it is a fallacy that they are or will continue making distinctions between citizens and non-citizens. It is extermination policy in effect to get rid of and reduce such populations by informal means, since formal means will never be able to pass without fury breaking out in America. It is a means to disenfranchise them and do again what was done before, but this time through semi-legal means. So let's first go back to this press conference. You hear the press conference taking place and you hear the distinct use of words. If you want to run the video back and check how many times the man in the press conference said illegal migrants. Just go back and check how many times he said it. It was at least 6 or so. And that's called reinforcement. Reinforcement is something that every good teacher will use. You introduce a concept, and then after you go a little bit ways, you bring back that concept and use it at the second part of the lesson so that people can remember continuous thread of understanding. That's how people build a comprehension. That's how people build comprehension of concepts. So you introduce a concept and then you go on a little way and then you bring the concept back and people are like, oh yes. They don't go, oh yes, like visibly. Their subconscious is basically picking up the concept like little beads on a necklace so that if it runs through the thing, that's how the idea is reinforced in your mind. And so this man kept reinforcing several things. One of the things he was doing is he kept using the word illegal, because the word illegal, all of us know it means not in compliance with the laws. But if you are living in America, regardless if you are citizen or non-citizen, you will notice that when you use the word illegal, you lose almost all sympathy with your average American. Most liberals tend to have a different approach. They don't really seem to care if you come from the moon, the planet Zarg. So you can definitely count on that group being the group that will willingly fight for alien rights, clone rights, fairy rights, Nephilim rights, beast rights, all the rights, because you know what? They're people too. People are people too. Liberals are the ones who put up signs of cows and fish everywhere and say, I'm not food. I'm a person, a fish that people be fish frying all over the place. They will put up a photo of a fish looking sad and then say, I am not food. I am a person. So there's definitely flaws in that thinking. But when it comes to apprehension of basically what we will call the rights of man, they usually get it right. On the other side of the aisle, people tend to be like, if you don't fall within certain parameters, we don't see a person. You can starve to death. We don't actually care if we have detention centers and you are a 4-year-old Venezuelan child in there. We're going to say, well, we wouldn't have these kids. These Venezuelan women are seductresses. And what they do is that they send their babies out with I don't know the term for the Mexican guys that will bring the children across the border. I don't know what the particular American term is for those people. So we will just say the traffickers. And then they will say that she knew what she was doing when she sent the 4-year-old across the border. Because if the 4-year-old comes and gets asylum, then the baby can grow up and eventually bring mom over. Even though there's not much sense to this plan, because the child is 14 years away from the age of majority and his mom would have to be unhinged to think that a good plan was to wait 14 years before she could finally come to America. Like, that doesn't make sense. An anchor baby will do that for you in half the time, right? So what people do is they use words because words can sometimes alienate all affection. Words can create a sense of otherness. So if you keep calling someone an illegal migrant while discussing their death, it's like a plug being pulled in the human soul, because the brain is constantly being told to focus on the illegality. He was illegal. And then eventually the soul is not getting a chance to connect with an unjust taking of life. And the government was doing this deliberately because they don't want you to focus on the unjust taking of life, because they're in the middle of lying and basically painting these people to be Tren de Aragua, right? Cartel members. Listen to how he says, the illegals were controlling a work site. Since when do undocumented people control a thing? When will an undocumented worker control the work site? The very fact that he's undocumented means that he's getting paid a pittance. He's getting paid a fraction of what documented and citizen people are getting paid. So he's not controlling anything. In fact, he is most likely the person to be stiffed by an employer, to be asked, oh, can you come and lay a patio for me? And then you lay the patio and then the employer goes, sucker. Why? Because this person is undocumented. He has no recourse in law. He's not able to go and complain and say, oh, this guy told me to please come and do a pool for him. Me and my brother built the pool in 2 days. And then he didn't pay us, and now we're suing for damages and we want the full value of the pool. There's nothing like that. That man can put in backbreaking labor and walk away. So right there, the government is lying. The government is obfuscating what happened in this situation where the ICE agents basically, let me tell you the fear that was in me when I saw those people running, and I woke up and God told me that this is a new extermination policy that he said you will see exclusively leveled against the Black and the brown communities. If they shoot everybody, because I was seeing the fear on those men's faces, the way that I was standing, God actually had some of the men running as if running in the camera perspective to me, running with their arms behind their back. So they're running and trying very hard to run, but at the same time to not run and fall because they don't want to be killed. And as I was seeing this, I was realizing that once you kill everybody, there's no witnesses, and then you get to craft the narrative. Hence my question. Yeah, they murdered all those people. They exterminated all those people. How will they ever explain this? How will they ever cover up their crime? And the way that God showed me the cover up of the crime is that the cover up of the crime is going to come from the very top. I hope you're listening to me. The cover up of the things that are going to start happening in America, things that are already starting to pop up on social media. If you can not see the overt racism of young boys of 18 and 19 now, just getting into cars and cruising parking lots, just looking for people of color to start making monkey noises at, flipping the middle finger at, calling them racial slurs and using the word nigger with impunity. And I'm going to say that word because people call me nigger all the time here. They call me nigger in the comments. They call me nigger in my inbox. They call me nigger on my social media. They do it all the time with impunity. So it's been something that I've been going through for the whole time that I have been here. So this behavior has been a long-standing part of life in America. But the thing is that the current political climate is emboldening it. And what Yah showed me when I said, okay, he could have shown me the ICE workers going off into the desert and just digging unmarked graves and putting these men in there. And then you know what? If the police ever find it, they will say, oh, it's definitely gang activity. Then the police would be justified for thinking that, because it would think, look, it's typical gangland style. Their hands are tied. They've all been shot at point blank range in the chest. This was definitely execution style. But it was ICE that did it, and ICE did it based on spoken, unspoken racial policy that exists in the United States. If you are looking at me right now as someone who is not Black, not Latino, not Asian or whatever, and you're thinking, this is why I struggle to believe this channel, because the prophecy will be going so well, and then she just goes into, it simply means that you don't know your social studies. You don't know your social studies, and you literally think that the fact that a prophecy is being given means that the prophecy is being given on an undiscovered moon, right? That is uninhabited by humans, and therefore the prophecy should just be floating in the sky, when prophecy is of necessity God speaking into the times of men to judge men in their times, or to tell them about their future times that are coming. To assume that God was not here before I was ever born and you were ever born, and the Native Americans were deliberately exterminated. And then I will bring a prophecy from the Lord, for instance, titled Buffalo Soldiers, or the other one I haven't done yet, and Original People. And then you will listen to it. And because of the discomfort it causes, naturally, then you will say, you see, it's a personal opinion. I don't literally know how to address that, and I'm not going to bother myself addressing that, because no matter what color I was, someone would be uncomfortable. No matter what color I was, someone will be upset. So what we're going to work with the fact that God looked at everybody on earth and then he picked me. That's what we're going to work with. He looked at everybody on earth and then he picked me, he formed me, he chose me, he called me. He's using me, and that means, even if you don't want to think about it, that means that there is a massive level of trust that Yah has in two things. He has trust in me that I will be faithful to his work, that I will not fail him, just like all my brothers in the scripture before me, Haggai, Hosea, Micah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Isaiah. He has faith that I will carry out my charge. But you know what he has bigger faith in? He has bigger faith in the work he's done in me. He has bigger faith in the fact that not only can he trust me to stick to the guns until it's done, he trusts the work he's done in me, that I'm able to bring out his work objectively. Because if you think that Yah is going to sit back and let these people be lynched and hung, now I'm switching back over to you. The plan is to lynch and hang you. The plan is to lynch and hang you. I'm not even talking about the other prophecy that Yah gave me when I was in church on Sunday. It's called something. The deeds of the elites or something. That's different. That is a different time in which it will be free for all lynching and hanging. No, there's racist lynching and hanging planned. There's rezoning that's planned. Pondering this prophecy all day today. Rezoning is coming. You see a lot of affluent young Black people now, males and females. It's mostly the women that will get on social media and say, just wanting to show you guys my new apartment, and she's showing off a dream space. She's showing off something that is surely $9,000 a month and above. And hey, she makes it, she makes it. She's talking about the fact that she's the latest VP at something else. Sister, I have to let you know it's best that you don't even go out with your friends. If I were you, I would stay in that apartment and hug the walls and get all the benefit out of it, because America is going to be rezoned and they're going to remove you from that place. You are not going to be allowed to live in that building. What Yah was showing me tonight is, I saw a man. He could have been Greek, or he could have been Jewish, or he could have been anything else. He was telling a girl that had one of the upper units, the ones that had the good view, a black girl. He was telling her that she could no longer live in the building, and it was hurting him because she was good with her rent and he had no reason in law. She had not broken the lease. She had not been unfaithful in anything. She was not delinquent in payment. She was not the type to have parties. Her dog hadn't bitten anyone. She had not been problematic in any way. The man was being forced to tell this woman in these modern times that we live in that she could not live in the building because of her color, and because he himself was not inherently a racist man. A short, stubby man with a big belly. He really came across to me as kind of like a Greek grandfather type. He was really struggling to try and discreetly let her know that his hands were tied in having her kind in the building anymore. And I will say, to this girl's credit, she had absolutely no clue what this man was trying to tell her. There was no section of her brain that could comprehend that she was not allowed to live in a certain part of the city, and definitely not in a building of that caliber anymore, because that whole area, including all the sky rises, let's just call them the needles, the high-rise buildings, all of them had been rezoned, and we were not allowed to live there anymore. You want to be out on chat groups talking about me, and yet who's telling you this? The place was being rezoned this very night when I was saying to myself, Lord, I have to make this prophecy regardless of the fact that I still have earthquake ones, and because of the time I can only make one because it's past 5 o'clock already. But I said, Lord, because of the urgency of this message, because of where this message put me internally, it has to go out. I just need to make myself something quick to eat, and then I will get on it. The understanding of it, the preparation of it. And then as I'm cooking, the Lord is showing me this man trying so hard to not say, you just can't stay here because you're black. Looking for every way and just saying, certain factors are forcing me. And he can't look at her in the face. He's looking at her shoes. He's looking at his shoes. He's occasionally glancing up, but he can't meet her eyes. And she's thinking, what is this man on? What is this man trying to tell me? And she keeps saying, because she's a professional, so she's speaking politely and with decorum, and she keeps trying to say to him, why don't you just tell me what's on your mind? She just wants to say, spit it out. But she can't, because she doesn't know, for instance, if she's about to be told that the rent is about to be triple, it's about to go from 9 to 21,000. She doesn't know what he's about to say. And this man is searching with all his heart not to give offense, because it's not coming from him. It's coming from top down. It's coming from top down. It will be policy. And I've been trying to tell you. I have. If you go back to the other videos, every time I mention this dream that I had that really hurt me, I've been trying to tell you that of all groups to be talking, of all groups to be mocking God, it is you that are making this fatal mistake. And I can tell you why the Lord will allow it. I already said it in the beginning, but it is because you are so infernally wicked. You are so proud. You are like a horse that nobody can put reins and a halter on. Black people. And God knows that the one thing you respond to with perfection is pain. You respond to pain because we hate pain. We hate pain. At the sight of it, we get sick. We get sick and depressed. Just at the mention, at the suggestion that we should go through more pain, crumbling starts to happen. Great anger is the response. Great anger is the response that more should be asked, where more was already asked to begin with. And yet the reason that Yah will allow this is because of the practices, is because of the mindsets, is because, like I said in one prophecy, when I was speaking towards the end of the prophecy, I've even made it into a short. It's like Israel follows the goats. Israel does not follow leaders that are leading her back into the bosom of Jesus. The black community in this country insists on their right to follow people that you will be shocked. You will be cut off from the presence of God. You will be so shocked that all these people you fight for, this person is a person of God. She's a person of God. You don't get to say that. You don't get to speak death over that person. Jesus is speaking death over that person in his intent of cutting out the tares from the midst of us, because if the tares are not cut off and sent to their judgment alone, all who follow them plus the tares. Can you imagine? The package deal is the tare goes by themselves to face their judgment, or all the people who become infected with the spores of the tare plus the tare goes into the fire. Who do you think God is willing to, which deal do you think God will take? Mass putting in the fire, or only one person to face their judgment? Does the scripture say the soul plus all the people that they managed to deceive will die, or it just says the soul that sins shall die? The people of God don't understand the God that they claim they're always fighting for, and always on the wrong side of wisdom, always on the wrong side of understanding. So this is what Yah was showing me. The laws don't allow for walking up to a house and shooting everybody in the house of a black family. The laws don't allow for that. But the laws do allow for officers to use reasonable force. And this is why 10 times out of 10, a white person walks away from a routine traffic stop. White people don't even fear traffic stops. When a white person is late and the cops are like, oh, it's annoyance. When those lights appear in the rear view of a black or Latino person, you always have to call a trusted person and have the phone on. You have to have the phone on so that there is a recording of that conversation, because it is not guaranteed that you will leave that traffic stop with your life. For black people, traffic stops become casualty stops. Life can be lost. Altercations can take place. And then the nation that you live in will always say, but then why didn't you comply? But the rest of you will use expletives against the officer, or you will get let off, because once he sees a face that mirrors his own, then he's like, not going to stop you this time. It's very rare to have that experience on the other side of the aisle. But the majority of this country is totally oblivious to that, because the nation is not oriented to them ever having to learn or understand that for the most part. And so this warning has come down from the Lord. You hear of the highest office in the land covering up, covering up a killing of people whose crime is that they came across the border without papers and they're working without papers. Then they died for it. They were murdered for it. And then their death was covered up. The government was complicit in covering up. And the story that was put out about the deaths is that these people came and they claimed territory. I hope you're hearing me. Claimed territory and were controlling a work site. And then it says our agents acted on the information, the tip-off. This is the snitches. The snitches of the end times. This woman will live in infamy. I can never believe that something that happened in Germany where people were calling like, I think this or whatever. I can never understand how a person will sit on the modern age. I mean, she was in her armchair and she was like, I was the one, and I just need a few things to be understood. I saved them because they were working in slavery. I said, wow, God. She doesn't have a single string tethering her to reality. She's just up like a helium balloon. Personalized insanity. She was unperturbed at telling the world that she snitched and nearly caused a global trade deal breakdown. And yet when I prophesied that people will do similarly simply to have extra eggs on the dinner table, and their neighbor will be taken to the extermination place, and we will never see the neighbor again, and the neighbor's life status will be called pending, then people were looking at me in 2021 as if I was unstable and telling me that Americans are good people who stick together. 5 years later, people are calling the ICE helpline. People are filming ICE raids. There is so much footage on TikTok. There is so much people watching the ICE raid. People come up, are yelling, "Keep America strong, brother. Keep America. Good job, brothers." And all I can think about is my prophecies of the American diaspora, where one incident that Yah brought to mind, I've been searching for it all evening until I realized I have to stop because I have to make the video. One incident of something that I saw and I prophesied here is that in the future, after all the wise people have run away, right? So all the wise people who paid attention in history class are running away now. They have passports, and they also understand that if you're going to live in a foreign country, it takes more than a passport. You actually need a work visa. You actually need your FBI verification, where they verify that you have a good life history, that you're not a criminal, that all of that, because the country isn't trying to, to take you in if you are a criminal or whatever it is. So they need all that stuff. So when I was prophesying years back, get a passport, now it's too late to talk about get a passport, because I always told you that the prophet goes first. Now that the secular people are on every live stream telling you to get a passport, I'm already past that. What I'm talking about now is that after all the smart people have already left, I prophesied that, so I'm just reminding you, after the smart people have left, and all that's left now is running under pressure of all the things that will be happening here. One of the things I prophesied is that God showed me entire planes of Americans will be stopped. This is, you don't know anybody else on the plane. You may be a single person running away and you manage to get a flight on that second to last Delta flight that's leaving the US. Other families, everybody's quiet. Everybody's huddled. You leave America and then you land in wherever the plane is going, and then the people in that place stop the entire plane. So you think you're getting off, you're going to baggage claim. There's nothing like that. They've got officials waiting for you guys. Your bags have already been left on the plane, because what is going to be decided for that entire plane of 172 people is if, regardless of if you got the visas and everything, remember America does this now. You get an American visa. The visa's been approved in your home country. You fly here. They can deny you entry, waste your money, waste your ticket, send you right back on the next flight. It can happen. It can be done. America does it all the time just for kicks. So there's this plane that came, and God was telling me it's not the only one. He said that entire planes will be detained, and then it will be in the hands of those people in Lebanon. It will be in the hands of those people in, shockingly, Belarus. It will be in the hands of those people to decide if they're going to grant entry to people from the United States. And you know what I saw? I saw that people were sitting on the ground in the airport for hours. There wasn't any formal seating or anything like that. I saw Americans just sitting on the ground, so demoralized, so depressed, because they'd come all this way, and now the officials were letting them know if they were going to be granted asylum or if they were all going to be sent back to an America that was just basically burning from political problems, burning from civil war, burning from natural disasters, just on fire. This is the nation that, as we speak, is taking battering rams to people's homes, beating them open. ICE recently went to an apartment. This was what I saw, I think, yesterday. No, not yesterday. I think I saw this. Yeah, it was yesterday or something like that. Before I went to bed, they went to the building with the police, and they were trying to break into the building to get at a family. They were downstairs ringing all the buzzers and saying, "This is the police. We order you to buzz us up, open up." And not a single person in that apartment did it. Not a single person did it. I think it was in an LA neighborhood. These people pulled down the fire escape to try and go around to the unit. They knew the unit that they wanted. They tried to go around to that unit to break in. They put so much fear and terror in that family. And the young woman narrating the story says, at this moment, I have screenshots of all my neighbors' documentations. And she said the reason that I have it is because they were so terrified that they would be caught and disappeared, that they texted us all their next of kin. They texted us all their green cards that they used to have, and then all the citizenship papers that they had when they naturalized. I hope you're listening, because I'm not going to repeat myself. They texted these people. Can you imagine being so hunted that you are willing to text? I think there were about 16 units. Anyone that you're friends with in the building, anyone that you know, because it seems like a tight-knit building where they all have each other's numbers. Would you give personal information, like the front-facing information of your passport card, your birth certificate, your green card, your naturalization? Would you just randomly text that to strangers in your desire to not disappear off the face of the earth, and to have the people around you know that the charge is being brought against you, that you are an illegal migrant that is trying to control the work site and take control of the territory, is false? Do you know the fear and the uncertainty that has to be in a person before they will reveal that kind of personalized information about themselves? Because people have climbed to the 4th floor and are outside on the fire escape trying to break in, but just because of the grace of God, they weren't able to successfully complete that mission and they had to leave. There's something going on in this country. And the thing that is going on in this country is a thing that you were told a long time ago, that you would have a beast with crushing teeth. Another thing you were told is that the Constitution would become functionally useless. And I used to hear, oh, the Constitution is the backbone of America. And I used to think to myself, and so no backbone can be broken? Is that what we're saying here? The Constitution is the backbone of the country, and then what? Did you take the thought to its logical end? If God says that the Constitution will become functionally useless, then what? Then what is to be expected? Then obviously the Constitution will become functionally useless. If the Constitution makes this nation one way, then when the Constitution being the backbone is broken, then the next step is that the nation will become unrecognizable, and the nation will not be what the nation used to be, because with a back broken, just as a person is different and his limitations increase, is the same way when the back is broken, then the nation's limitations increase. And that's how we will come by the restrictive life that we will come by. So let's listen to some of the amendments in the United States and match it with where we are currently and see if the Constitution is healthy. But before we do that, I would like to say that the reason this dream was so pressing upon me, a dream of people just being outright hurt, is because today, or should I say yesterday, a landmark decision was handed down by the Supreme Court of the United States that makes it okay to arrest a person based on how they look. If you look Spanish, because that's who they're hunting now. If you look Spanish, if you look like you might be Spanish or speak Spanish, something that a lot of Black people cross over into, and they know it. The government has had its right upheld by the Supreme Court of the land to detain you by sight. And then when they have you, then they can run your background check, your citizen check, your all that. So they grab you first and then they run those things after. But let's see with the 4th Amendment of the United States Constitution that everybody always says it's unconstitutional. If something is unconstitutional but it's happening, then it means that somebody's slow and it's the person who's screaming it's unconstitutional. Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution. The rights of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, effects, against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Common parlance, you're not going to go into people's homes. You're not going to go through their papers. You're not going to go through their personal effects. That includes what ICE is doing now, all you Apple iPhone users, right, that like to give Siri your heartbeat. That includes taking a person's phone, handcuffing them, and then holding the phone up to their face so that the Face ID can unlock the phone. Why is your phone working by Face ID? What's happening? Why have you given your fingerprint to Siri? But let's move past that. The right of people to be secure, non-attacked, having nobody scrambling up the fire escape at 4 o'clock in the morning or ramming their door to get at them, will not be violated. They are protected against unreasonable searches and seizures. Unreasonable is the word you need to pick up here. That means that there are occasions for reasonable search and seizure. We're not going to have children in the basements of homes and then saying, I'm sorry, ma'am. I mean, your neighbors keep seeing you coming out with like old Mother Hubbard numbers of children, but you're not even married. We don't know why you have 15 kids in this house. And the kids don't look well fed. They don't look well washed. They look kind of hungry. But we're not going to violate your right. We're not trying to have that. It says unreasonable searches and seizures. So that means that there are reasonable search and seizures, but the unreasonable ones shall not take place. And then for the reasonable ones to take place, listen to what has to happen. There needs to be a warrant issued. And the warrant needs to be based upon probable cause, which means you can't arrest me first and then look for something to happen later. Do you know how many officers right now are on tape stopping people of color and telling them, once they find out that they're citizens, right, then they don't want to just say, oh, I'm sorry, my mistake for being racist. Then they're saying on camera, I'm going to need you to step out of the car. And people are like, why should I step out? Yeah, I need to search the vehicle. And the man is like, why do you need to search my vehicle? No, I just need to search it. No. That's not how it works. You can only search based on probable cause. That means that you had to have seen a kilo or two in my back window. And then you put your lights on and you stopped me. Maybe I was looking a bit heavy in the trunk, might have had a body in the trunk. Yes, then you could have stopped me. Can I just please search your trunk, officer? I mean, sir or ma'am, can I just look in the trunk? But you don't just get to see a person sitting in their car or sitting at the lights and then just, yeah, do you know why I stopped you? And the person is genuinely surprised and confused. No, I don't. Yeah, I'm going to need to search the vehicle. Based on what? They can't say based on blackness, but that is what they mean. I saw you and I'm assuming that you're suspicious. I saw you and I'm going to assume based on all my training and background and bias that there's always something going on with you people. I'm not afraid to say what people won't say in real life. It doesn't bother me. If the sky is blue, let's call it blue. I saw you, and I am assuming that given an opportunity, I will find something wrong with you. This is not something that I do in my own community, but with you, I'm betting 9 times out of 10, you're going to give me something. So what I need for you to do, and they're telling people, step out of your car. And the person is like, no, you can search the car when I'm in here. And they're like, no, I'm going to need you. I kid you not. This is not a skit. I'm seeing these things pop up. Especially the younger people will know. I'm seeing them pop up on the internet that they're stopping even older black people and telling them, I'm going to need to put you in my cruiser and search the car alone. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen, Mr. Plant Some Crack. Why would I allow that to happen? First of all, why am I getting into the back of your cruiser? Why am I being detained? Why are you putting me into the back of your cruiser? Based on what? So now you're not only asking me to step out of my property, you don't want to search it in my presence for me to be the second witness to the fact that you're using your bias, I'm going to use mine. We don't trust you. Your track record sucks. It's crusty and it's cakey. But now you're saying that you want to put me into the back of the cruiser that everybody knows it can't open from the inside, and then leave you alone with my vehicle for you to come back with 2 huge pure Nicaraguan logs and then say you found that on me. No unreasonable search and seizure without a warrant. If there's a search, if there's a seizure, there has to be a warrant. The warrant has to be based on probable cause, meaning that on your warrant, you will say, I want to search this person's house because I have reason to believe that ABC is being held against their will in the basement. You have to state your reason. And you know the word probable means it better be a good reason. It cannot be a strawberry reason. It cannot be a Smurfy reason. It has to be a good reason that if we go to a court of law, your initial hunch is able to stand up to rigorous questioning. Probable means I want to check on more than a gut feeling of racism. I want to check because based on surrounding evidence that I already have and been working with, there's a pretty good chance that I'm right. That's what it means. And then even when you say that, you need to have a judge's signature on it. You need to have somebody with power signing the warrant, and then the warrant has to describe the person, either the person or the things that you want to seize or the place that you want to search. How does the Fourth Amendment match up with a dream where you go into like a housing development area, a nice place, and you literally start, these people were running up with so much violence upon these people that it felt like when a dog is 2 jumps away from you and you just know, say goodbye to a body part, something is about to leave. That is why the prophecy is called the wolves are coming. The savagery with which that war zone, desert storm scream that those men gave in a civilian environment was something else. How does it match up? You need to have a warrant. The warrant needs to be signed. The warrant needs to say who it's for. The warrant needs to say what you're going to be searching for, what you want to seize. You want to seize his laptop. You don't come into the house and then start seizing his wife's laptop. Like, you didn't write that in the warrant. You said you wanted his. You don't get to come and do what the government does and just take every single electronic, even the house, even the TV remote they take. It doesn't work like that. America no longer is keeping her own laws, and her people, their mouth is filled with cotton wool of shock, and they just keep squawking. It's unconstitutional. It's unconstitutional because the time of the Constitution's efficacy is passing away. Like, when are you going to update your mental resume? When are you going to actually realize that if it's green, then it's green? Why do you keep insisting that it used to be blue? It's changed now. When are you going to update so that you can function in the new paradigm that is being shown to you? If you stay outdated, you will get hurt. How does running up on people, shooting people in an intersection, isn't that indiscriminate? How does that keep in line with the fact that you need to identify who you want to take and who you want to come after? The Fifth Amendment says, no person will be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property. That's where we are. Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. ICE has been stealing money. ICE has been raiding homes and stealing whatever cash is in the house. They've been taking people's physical money, seizing it as spoils of war. They're stealing basically while they're supposedly on the job. These people actually, a lot of them can't give any ID. Whenever they're asked where's the warrant and where's the ID, they become mute. And that's because they've had, as Yah is saying, this is all policy. They've had training. If you're asked for ID, if you're asked for any way to identify yourself, don't say anything. And if it becomes an issue, leave the area and back up. A lot of them, there's so much video again of these people. You need to inform yourself. Okay, I'm going to try and put some of that together and bring it here. But you need to inform yourselves. These people are coming in unidentified, and when they take people, the last people know of them is that unidentified masked men took them. Now, if bandits came in from the highway and came to the house and said, you're not supposed to be here, you're not supposed to be here, and took people, would you allow your wife to be taken by a man that showed no ID with a face sock on his face, who claimed that he was Officer Henley? Would you really let your wife go with that guy? People don't let the cops take them even across the street until they know name and badge number. But then there are people running vigilante all over the United States, claiming to be from the Customs and Immigration Enforcement Agency, taking people into unmarked white vans. As the other countries in the world are watching us, what do you think they're thinking? Especially the Europeans who have seen all of this before. What do you think that they are thinking? And how is it that the demographic within the nation, there are people coming to watch this video right now who will die on the hill that illegal is as illegal does? But just a couple of years ago in this country, the presence of a human like myself was illegal. So what does that tell you about the liquidity of laws and how they change? People in this nation who look like me were illegal in times past. They were treated as less than humans. They could be killed simply for looking at Massa's wife the wrong way, and it was legal to kill them. So what are you saying exactly? Nobody should be deprived of their life and their freedom and their property without due process of law. And that is a full application rule. Citizen, non-citizen. The only person who can access this is the animal kingdom. Every single person within these here environs, within these United States, falls under the governance of this rule in the Fifth Amendment that says nobody's life should be taken without due process of law. Nobody can be summarily killed because ICE is kneeling on their neck and then they have an epileptic fit and die. No one should lose their liberty, their freedom without due process of law. Due process of law is not named white van speeding off into the sunset as the neighbors record it and then never hear from the person again. That is not the due process of the law. You should have the right to an attorney. You should know what your crime is. You should have an opportunity to stand in the court of law and answer for those crimes, if so convicted. You have to be granted an opportunity for all those things. And America is breaking its own laws and then opening its mouth everywhere and talking about illegals. The Eighth Amendment, excessive bail shall not be required, excuse me, please, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Why did America build a makeshift facility in the Everglades and start boasting all over the internet that there's alligators out there to eat the people who try to escape? Like, what kind of sadistic mental illness is that? And then people start getting leaks. I think there was a senator that went there that came out and pretty much had a breakdown. It's a blonde lady. I didn't really get her name. Pretty much had a breakdown as she was describing the conditions in that place, that the people are deliberately underfed, right? So this is the same America that will make 22 movies about how their prisoners of war were treated. Oh, they shaved their heads. Oh, they gave them little rice. Oh, they let their big toe get gangrene, right? But then America is underfeeding the people, putting 35 of them in a cage room. It is literally a cage, bunk beds, regularly requiring them to strip. How many times have we studied and understood on this channel that forcibly removing the clothing of people demoralizes the human being very greatly, especially if others in the room are clothed? What do you think will happen when you have 35 Hispanic men of various different countries, right, in one ICE detention center, and then these guys are coming and saying strip, and what else? The temperature is 32 degrees in there. ICE is known. American detention centers are known for dropping the temperature to Arctic levels. That's why you always, whenever you see sneaked footage from there, right, you always see them in these silver emergency blankets, because those little silver blankets those things are not even meant to keep the human being warm for a long period of time. They usually give them to athletes when the athlete is sweating and is at great risk of giving off too much body heat that can send them into a bad situation. Then after they run a marathon, they give them that so that they can keep body heat and they can cool down naturally and not go into any kind of toxic shock state. You will see little babies. You will see 5 years old, and this has been going on since the Obama administration. When they leak footage from there, you can see the children always have this reflective silver blanket that is covering them in these places. I am the one who has come and prophesied, and God has said that the way America treats people in Guantanamo Bay, Americans will go to foreign jail, and the Russians will keep you up until 4 a.m. And guess what? You're not a spy. You are not a spy. Yah says the same way those normal people that America just plucked up and said, isn't it true that you are Osama's twin brother clone? And the man is like, I'm a normal person. I'm a normal person. They've been questioning the same man for 5 years. They long know by now, having broken 3 of his fingers, pulled out all his toenails, right? Allowed the gay guards to sodomize him. The man is now just a quivering piece of flesh. The minute he sees them coming, he just starts crying. I'm recounting to you from my prophecies. I don't just say things here. He just starts crying, and Yah says this man is just pleading. I just want to see my family. And now he can feel that there's not much life in him. So now the crying has changed to, I just want to see my family before I die. And God said that countless foreign nationals have died in Guantanamo Bay, and America will never, ever, ever, ever bring out a full schedule of all the lives that have been lost in Guantanamo Bay, all the people that she has murdered and assaulted and said it was national security. God said Russia will see to it that an ordinary person who bakes wedding cakes for a living will be woken up at 4 a.m. to be questioned with her feet in freezing ice water, and they'll be playing Russian rock music and asking, so when did you give the files to Krishnov? And you don't know Krishnov because you only been baking cakes. Yah says that you will cry the same way and say, I'm only an accountant. I'm actually an athlete. I don't know what you're talking about, for year after year after year. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Exactly as she has rendered. Mix her wickedness in a cup and give her double for the things that have been done here, for the things that are being done here, for the fact that it is justified. And people are saying, no, it's our laws. Don't be upset when the laws change. Because even people of color have this mindset. No, it's our laws, you know. If you're illegal, then you're illegal. When they change the laws and lynching is back on the books, we don't want to see you making angry TikToks. We don't want to see you making scared TikToks. We want to see you standing 10 toes down for the laws of the USA. Because there's no brains to understand that the laws of a country actually simply reflect the temperature of a nation at any given time. As soon as a nation changes, its laws change. America became 10 billion times more gay because Obama changed the laws in his time. America has been filled with an influx of people who have come here doing things not quite the normal way because Joe Biden changed the laws for his time. Now the laws have changed again, and it's now playing hunt and seek. Hunt and seek. And they're going to change again. And Yah says there will be many informal ways that lives of people of color will be attacked and sought and hunted, because it can't be legally said we're going back to Jim Crow. And in fact, you know what? We're rolling it all the way back to slavery. What will happen is that rights granted will slowly be removed. And that needs to be understood. And so I should have read the banner scripture at the beginning, because the prophecy you're listening to is called The Wolves Are Coming, September the 8th, 2025. And the banner scripture, when the Lord said it, I knew exactly which scripture he meant, and it's here in the book of Exodus. But the way he said it was simply like this. Anytime you see one of their boys, kill him. That's the way the Lord said it. Whenever you see one of their boys, kill him. The way the Bible says it is Exodus chapter 1 and verse 22. So Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, every son who is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive. And this is the last sentence of the first chapter of the book of Exodus that describes the changing of the laws of Egypt. Joseph died, and all of Joseph's brothers died. And then a new Pharaoh came. In verse 8 it says, now there arose a new king who did not know Joseph. Now everybody knows Joseph. Joseph is the hero of the last few chapters of the book of Genesis. Joseph's story is told that he was sold by his brothers because they hated him into captivity. But God already had a plan for that young man's life, and the selling was part of it. It was a painful part of it, but it was still part of it. And Joseph's destiny developed in Egypt, and God used this man mightily during a time of great catastrophe that would have wiped out a significant portion of the old world. But God demonstrated his power, his wisdom, his resourcefulness through one man, and Joseph rose to so much prominence that he was afforded in later history the status of a god. They gave him a local name, and many historians believe that old scrolls that they found, it's not exactly a scroll, it's kind of like a tumbler, like a long thing, and they kept describing a man with the wisdom of the gods who has saved Egypt during a terrifying time in their history from famine and from suffering. And many historians believe that that person that they are talking about is Joseph. And so Joseph, like all men, he goes the way of all flesh. He dies, and then all the generation that knew him, all the generation, I remember Joseph. And eventually, I told you, in latter generations, if the memory of important things is not kept, the children become progressively worse, which is why we have the 12 tribes who act the way they act today. They act like they never saw a Bible in their life. They act like they never knew that the sins of the fathers can generationally pass down to them and be multiplied. And that's why the community is in the condition that it's in. So everybody who knew Joseph died. Everybody who knew Joseph's deeds died. And now Joseph is rarely mentioned, which is many pharaohs down the line for that kind of salvation to be forgotten. But eventually it's forgotten. And the new king comes, and he doesn't see Israel quite the same way. He sees them as a threat. They're taller, they're stronger. There's certainly a lot of them, and he sets up new rules. So the same Israel that used to live in favor in Goshen now becomes their slave encampment. The rules change just like that. Whereas they were put there as a land of favor, they're now kept there, and they don't want them mixing with Egyptian society. And the Pharaoh tries to get the midwives of Israel to kill the male children because, as I just explained, the babies are the future. The babies are the continuity. And this is part of what God is saying here, that there's too many, and there's too many people of color in the United States. And the official policy, no one can look at the White House and even pretend that it's not racist. Like, let's not do that, because it's so, I want to say disingenuous, but it's just childish, actually. It's very disrespectful to pretend as if we can't see the changing of policies and the activities. And the president stood in the White House and said that black children are genetically predisposed to crime. He said it. He said, in 2 years, and 10 years, and 20 years, and 2 years, they'll grow up and they'll be criminals. A governor had to stand up somewhere and try to counter the words and say, I can respect the office, but I don't respect the sentiments that came out of the White House recently. How do you just stand and address a nation of people and say, but then, it's par for the course, because previously, I think just shortly before that, he had said that Mexicans were born to work. He said that that I did hear myself, that they're born to work. And that who would not know that with how strong their backs are? It's a very strong back, A Mexican, as long as his back isn't broken. This man said this. This man is the epitome of the white supremacist stereotype. And the fact that I'm Christian doesn't preclude me from saying that any more than I'm precluded from remarking that water is wet. It's in front of everybody, and he is not ashamed that his peers, other presidents, can hear this. So, policy changes, and it is very wise when policy changes and does not favor you, that you don't spend your time wasting your effort on movements like, BLM. You shouldn't do that. You should actually try to figure out, with the Holy Spirit's help, how you are going to survive and stay safe in a situation where you are being told from upstairs that because certain things can't be done to hurt you legally, as in on the books, they're going to use what God calls semi-legal means. Meaning that if they stop you and they ask to see something, and whatever happens, you might not walk away from that. And then they will simply say that you were resisting. And the officer is within his rights to protect himself if he feels threatened. The problem is that after he kills you, he can claim that he was feeling threatened all he wants, and you won't be there to dispute it because you would have passed on through semi-legal means. And so when Pharaoh tries to recruit the Israelite midwives, and the Israelite midwives are God-fearing women, and they do not do what the king wants, which is to kill the babies on the birthing stools. So he basically wants these women to perform last-minute abortions. He wants them to attack the children. He wants them to choke the children with the umbilical cord as they're bringing them forth, the male child specifically. He wants something to be done, but it says that the women feared God, and they told the king alive, and they said, these women, they push out their babies before we can even get there. We just can't seem to get a handle on these births. Pharaoh was frustrated with that. And so he took the law keeping to the people of Egypt. Since Israel would not commit the murders, the abortions within the community, he took it to his people and basically told them, keep an eye out. And if anybody pops up with a new son, you have the permission to kill it. That's a very dangerous situation. That's a very dangerous situation to deputize the members of a nation to attack other people. And that is exactly what is happening. That is exactly what is happening in America today. And I felt that this message was so urgent. This message of the Lord was so urgent. This thing just knocked me out of sleep, and it's been on my mind the whole day yesterday, September the 8th, 2025. So God says they want to remove and reduce the population of the black and the brown communities altogether. And their goal is not to remove them like, oh, we're just rounding them up through ICE to deport them. No. Yah says they're looking to cut the branch in such a way that the branch will not grow back. Nobody grows back after death. Nobody comes back after death. It's a final thing. And it's very important for people in the black and brown communities to understand that this nonsense that you're doing, especially black people, by watching what's happening to Mexican people and spending your time mocking them and saying, oh yes, but they wanted to MAGA and everything. God wants you to know that the extermination policy that is in place will make no distinction between you and the Mexican. Isn't it foolish to be in the same boat with someone and then to take a saw and begin to saw the boat in half, saying that's your half and this is my half? Like, isn't it ignorant in the extreme? When you have a common predator and the two of you are in the woods doing rock, paper, scissors, who was wrong? Like, he says it is a fallacy to think that they will make distinctions between citizens and non-citizens. So it's a fallacy to think. God is saying black and brown community, the Latino community and the black community are going, no, it's your fault because of how you voted, unaware that the predator is creeping up on both of them. And then on top of that, Yah says on top of that now, citizens are watching what's happening to the migrants and saying, well, you know, they should do it the right way. They should. And this part goes for everyone, because how many times have I told you that when the government has basically gone after their so-called first pig, what makes you think that the camps, the detention centers, the abuse of power, what makes you think that after all this, the American government is going to go back to the government you knew? Like a dog turning into Cujo and then going back to its normal self. Or like Bruce Banner, when he turns into the Hulk, he goes crazy for a while, then all of a sudden he comes back to size and somehow his genes still fit. What makes you think you can ever put this particular Jack back in the box? When they've abused all the power and caused all the decimation and caused all the harm and managed to reduce whatever population they believe to reduce, because surely if we don't cry out to God, this will be successful. Surely, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, we will go into the wailing that is sometimes known as Jacob's trouble. That's a more extended period than people need, than people understood. What makes you think that when the so-called people that you feel, yeah, we want to get out, we want to get them out, that the government is not going to go after the citizens? This government is going to feed on the citizens. It's going to go bloated on the blood of the citizens, because this branch, it's not just about the black and the brown nodules. The people who own and desire to have this nation to themselves don't want you around. They want to repurpose the land. They want to live here without hearing your voice and watching you clamor for Netflix and just take up space. They want population effectively reduced to, I think, only 500 million people or 5 million people, some very small number. And where do you think they plan to put all the rest of the superfluous life? They look at it as branches that should be cut off. So I have delivered the warning of the Lord. I believe that I have brought forth everything that needs to be brought forth. That people need to understand that Yah says that this group that we know as ICE and other enforcement bodies, but specifically ICE, is going to end up armed in the future and are going to start basically killing people and lying about how they came to be killed. Because what they will do is just kill everyone, and then there won't be any witnesses to it. And then stories of how they were endangered, these good family men working for the government, will come out, and that will be the official line on the incident. I'm Celestial, and this is the Master's Voice. Master's Voice is available on SoundCloud and Spotify and Apple Music, Amazon Music and YouTube Music, and various other podcasts. You can find my channel on Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon and Telegram, and I think Odyssey as well. I have a Facebook. You're welcome to follow me on Facebook. You should go over there and join up. It's called The Master's Voice. You can't miss it. I have about 120,000 followers, so make sure you don't follow a fake page. Look for the follower numbers. Look to see my actual videos, and then you will know that's me. I'm on TikTok likewise. You should go and look for Master's Voice Prophecy blog. There are many fake pages. Just look for my real one. It'll be there. God bless you. And until I see you again, goodbye.